A hand shot out and shoved a man hard in the chest. He staggered back a step, coffee sloshing over his knuckles. The younger one bounced on his toes, fists up, grinning wide. "Come on," he said. "Throw a punch, right here in front of everybody." Behind them, a row of kids sat frozen on a blue mat. Nobody in the room moved. An old dog lifted its head from the corner and watched. The older man didn't raise his hands. He set his coffee down on a folding chair, slow and careful, and stepped sideways, putting his body between the kids and the man screaming in his face. He asked him to leave. Once. Twice. That was Marcus Rourke, 22 years, a Navy SEAL, and he had no interest in a fight. So what made a cocky black belt swing at him anyway? Stay with me on this one. Let me back up and tell you how a quiet Tuesday afternoon turned into that. The gym sat in a strip mall outside Jacksonville, Florida. Nothing fancy. A nail salon on one side, a taco place on the other, and in the middle a glass door with peeling gold letters that read Rourke Family Defense. Inside, it was one big room. Blue mats on the floor. Folding chairs against the wall for the parents. A water cooler that gurgled every few minutes like it was clearing its throat. Marcus Rourke ran the place. 51 years old, gray coming in at the temples. He wasn't a big man the way the movies tell you a fighter should be. Medium height, thick through the shoulders and the wrists, the kind of build you don't notice until he picks something heavy up like it's nothing. He moved slow, he talked slower. Most people who met him figured he was a retired plumber, maybe a school janitor, somebody who'd worked with his hands his whole life and was tired now. They had no idea. 22 years in the Navy, most of it with the teams. The kind of career he never talked about. Not to the parents, not to the kids, not even to the guy at the hardware store who once asked about the faded tattoo on his forearm. He'd shut that conversation down, gentle and quick. "Long time ago," he'd say, and that was that. Now here's the thing about Marcus. He didn't run the class to make money. The rent ate most of what the parents paid, and he covered the rest out of his pension. He ran it because 8 years back, a kid in his neighborhood got jumped walking home from school, and nobody taught that boy how to fall, how to breathe, how to get up. Marcus decided that as long as he was breathing, kids in his corner of the world would know how to protect themselves. Simple as that. That Tuesday, he had 11 of them on the mat, ages 7 to 12. Little ones in mismatched socks, working on the most boring thing in the world, how to stand, feet apart, weight centered. Boring is where it starts, he told them. The flashy stuff comes later, and half of it doesn't work anyway. In the corner, on a flat cushion he'd carried from home, lay Diesel, a German shepherd, black and tan, going gray at the muzzle, 11 years old and slow in the hips. Diesel had been a working dog once overseas, same as Marcus. Now the dog's whole job was to sleep in the corner and let the shy kids scratch his ears when they got nervous. He was good at that job, best in the business. The parents liked Marcus. He never yelled. He never made the small kids feel small. When a child got frustrated and teary, he'd crouch down to their level and say, "Hey, you're not behind, you're right on time." And they believed him because he meant it. So that's the room. Calm. Warm. The kind of place where nothing bad happens. And then the door opened. The man who walked in didn't so much walk as announce himself. Late 20s, tall, cut like he lived in a mirror. He had a gym bag over one shoulder and a phone up in his other hand, already recording, red dot glowing. He wore a black gi jacket open over a tank top, and around his waist, cinched tight and showy, a black belt with 3 gold stripes on it. "Which one of you is the instructor?" he said, loud, sweeping the phone across the room. The kids stopped moving. A couple of parents looked up from their chairs. Marcus straightened from where he'd been kneeling by a 7-year-old. "That's me. Help you." The young man smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile. "Trevor Kane," he said, like the name should mean something. "You probably seen my channel. 200,000 subs. I go around, I test these little strip mall dojos, expose the frauds. People love it. He looked Marcus up and down, and whatever he saw made him laugh through his nose. And I gotta say, man, I'm not impressed. Here's what you need to understand. Everything about this was a setup. Trevor made his money filming himself embarrassing older instructors, guys past their prime, guys who talked a big game and folded the second somebody applied real pressure. He'd walk in, provoke them, get them to spar, then post the highlight of them gasping on the floor. It worked every time. He'd built a whole little empire on other men's bad afternoons. And a quiet 51-year-old running a kid's class in a strip mall, to Trevor, that looked like the easiest video he'd ever make. Marcus didn't take the bait. He glanced at the phone, then back at Trevor's face. "We're in the middle of a class," he said. "You want to talk? I'm free in an hour. Right now you need to lower that camera or step back outside." That was the stakes right there, though nobody in the room had said it out loud yet. 11 children, a stranger with a camera and an agenda, and a man who'd spent his whole life learning exactly how much damage a human being could do standing between the two. Trevor Kane had walked into the wrong gym. He just didn't know it yet. Trevor didn't step back outside. Of course he didn't. Men like Trevor don't come for the hour-later conversation. They come for the reaction, and Marcus wasn't giving him one, and that made Trevor push harder. He walked deeper into the room, right up onto the edge of the mat, still filming. "See, this is what I'm talking about," he said to the camera, voice going up for his audience. "Guy won't even spar. Runs a self-defense class, teaches these kids to protect themselves, and he won't test his own skills. You know why? Because he's got nothing. It's a scam. He's taking your money, folks." A couple of the parents shifted in their chairs. One dad, a big soft-bellied guy named Ray, started to stand up. Marcus lifted 2 fingers off his own thigh just barely, and Ray sat back down. That small thing told you a lot. In that room, when Marcus said sit, people sat. Marcus turned to the kids. "All right, everybody over to the wall. Grab some water, 2 minutes." Calm voice. Same voice he used every day. The kids scrambled up and shuffled to the folding chairs, and a few of them clustered around Diesel, who'd raised his head and was watching Trevor with old, flat eyes. Getting the kids off the mat and against the wall, that wasn't nerves. That was Marcus clearing the field, moving the vulnerable to the edge of the room. He'd done a version of that 1,000 times in places I won't describe, and his body did it now without him even thinking about it. Trevor took it as fear. Oh, sending the kids away. Smart. Don't want them to see, huh? He dropped his bag on the mat and rolled his shoulders. "Come on, old man. 1 round, light contact. Show these people what 20 years of experience looks like." He'd read the little framed photo on the wall, the one that just said US. Navy with no details, and he sneered at it. "Or is that fake too?" Marcus walked over, picked up his coffee off the counter and took a slow sip, set it down on a folding chair. He didn't answer the Navy comment. He never did. "I'm going to ask you nicely," Marcus said. "Pick up your bag and leave. There's no video for you here." "There's always a video," Trevor said, grinning, and that's when he shoved him. He came in fast and slapped both hands into Marcus's chest, a hard 2-handed push meant to knock the older man back on his heels and get a flinch on camera. Marcus rocked back half a step. Coffee jumped over the rim of the cup on the chair, and that was all. He didn't stumble. He didn't windmill his arms. He absorbed it and settled like a fence post somebody kicked. The room went dead quiet. Even Trevor blinked. "Don't touch me again," Marcus said, quiet, not angry, just flat and final, the way you'd read a stop sign out loud. But Trevor had an audience now, both in the room and in his pocket, and he'd committed. He shoved again, harder, and this time he followed it with words that dropped the temperature in the whole place. "Come on," he barked, spit flying. "Throw a punch, right here, in front of everybody, in front of your little kids. Show them what you got or admit you're a fraud." That's the moment from the very top of this story. Him screaming in Marcus's face. The kid's frozen against the wall. Diesel up on his front legs now, a low sound starting in his chest. Marcus stepped sideways. Smooth, deliberate, putting his body squarely between Trevor and the row of children. He held up one open hand, not a fist, a stop. "Kids," he said without turning around, "eyes on me, not him. Everybody breathe. Nothing's wrong." And to Trevor, lower, "Second time I'm asking, leave now." Now here's where a smarter man would have felt it. There was something in how still Marcus had gotten. His weight had dropped. His hands had come up loose and easy, not clenched. His eyes had gone quiet, not scared, quiet, empty, quiet, the way water goes flat before it moves. Every guy Marcus ever served with would have recognized it and taken a long step back. Trevor Kane saw an old man with his hands up who still wouldn't fight, and he decided to make the video himself. He wound up. A big, wild, looping right hand, thrown with his whole shoulder behind it, aimed right at the side of Marcus's jaw. Not a light contact spar. A real punch, the kind that breaks teeth, thrown at a 51-year-old in front of a room of children. And here's the strange part. Everybody in that room saw the punch start, but nobody could tell you exactly what happened next. 1 second the fist was flying. The next second Trevor was somewhere he did not expect to be, and Marcus hadn't seemed to hurry at all. I'll tell you the whole thing in a minute, but first, understand what a line Trevor had just crossed. He'd thrown a full-force strike at a man who was standing between him and a group of kids. Whatever polite little rules existed in that room a second ago, the sparring, the video, the reputation game, those were gone now, erased. This wasn't content anymore, except it didn't quite go how you'd think. Because Marcus's hand came up and met that punch, and Trevor's wrist smacked into Marcus's forearm and glanced off, and Trevor stumbled forward off balance into empty space where the old man used to be. Marcus had just moved, slid. He didn't hit back. He let the punch die on his arm and stepped off the line, and Trevor went blowing past him like a bull past a fence. Trevor caught himself before he fell, spun around, red in the face, embarrassed now, because on his own camera he'd just thrown his hardest punch and hit nothing but air. Marcus stood exactly where the kids needed him, hands still open, still not attacking. "Okay," Trevor breathed, and there was something new in his voice. Not showmanship anymore, real anger, wounded pride. "Okay, all right." Marcus watched him, read him, and something in the older man's face changed. A flicker of concern, the first real concern he'd shown since Trevor walked in. Because Marcus had spent a lifetime reading men in the seconds before they do something stupid, and he could see Trevor had stopped performing and started meaning it. "You've got one way out of here," Marcus said, nodding toward the door. "It's right behind you. Take your bag, take your video. Nobody has to know how this went." For one long second, it looked like Trevor might take it. He dropped his hands. He looked at the camera in his palm, then at the door, then at the kids all pressed against the wall staring at him. His shoulders came down. He huffed out a breath and shook his head, and he actually laughed, a small, tired laugh, and said, "Man, whatever, this place is a joke." He crouched down and started zipping up his gym bag. The whole room let out its breath at once. You could feel it. Ray the dad sank back in his chair. One of the moms put her hand over her chest. A couple of the older kids even smiled at each other. Diesel lay back down on his cushion with a heavy grunt. Marcus's hands lowered just a little, and he half turned toward the children to tell them it was over, that they'd get back to class, that everything was fine. It was over. That's what everybody thought. The bully got embarrassed, gave up, and now he was packing up to leave. Hold that thought, because Trevor Kane wasn't reaching into that bag for his water bottle. His hand came out of the gym bag holding a knife. Not a big movie blade. A short folding knife, the kind that clips inside a pocket already open, the way a coward opens it low where nobody can see. He came up out of that crouch fast, and the whole friendly, defeated act peeled right off his face, and what was underneath it was ugly. "Nah," he said, quiet now, and quiet was so much worse than loud. "Nah, we're not done. You made me look stupid, on my own channel in front of everybody." He wasn't playing to the camera anymore. He'd forgotten the camera. "You're gonna say sorry, old man. You're gonna get on the ground and say it, or I swear to God." And just like that, the whole thing changed shape. You feel it, right? A second ago, this was a story about pride. A loudmouth wanting a viral clip, an old instructor keeping his cool. Annoying, but not dangerous. Now there was steel in a room with 11 children, held by a young man who'd stopped thinking straight, and it wasn't about respect anymore. It was about whether everybody in that room got to go home tonight. The parents froze. Somebody's mom made a small sound. One of the little ones started to cry quiet into another kid's shoulder. Ray started to get up again, and Marcus said, "Ray, sit down. Stay with the kids," in a voice that left no room, and Ray sat. Marcus didn't back up. He didn't reach for anything. He simply changed. If you'd been watching his hands, you'd have seen them shift, one drifting a little higher, one a little lower, the stance widening by an inch. He turned his body so his side faced Trevor, making himself narrow, keeping that same wall of himself between the blade and the kids. His face wasn't scared, and it wasn't angry. It had gone all the way calm, empty calm, flat water calm. "Look at me," Marcus said to Trevor, gentle, almost kind. "Not at them, right here, at me. You don't want to do this. 2 seconds ago you were walking out that door. You can still do that. Fold it up, put it away, walk out, and this is just a bad afternoon. Nobody's hurt. But once that knife moves, kid, you can't take it back. Ever. Whatever this cost you online, it's nothing next to where that thing takes you." For a heartbeat, the words landed. Trevor's eyes flicked to the crying child. His knife hand wavered, and then his pride grabbed the wheel again, the way it does with men who have never once in their life admitted they were wrong. His jaw set. "On the ground," he said, and stepped forward and brought the knife up. "Let me pause right here, because I know you've been with me a while, and this is the part where it all turns. If you've made it this far and you're feeling it in your chest, do me one favor and hit that subscribe button. It genuinely helps me keep telling these stories. All right. Now stay close, because what Marcus Rourke did next happened faster than you can read this sentence, and it's the whole reason we're here." Trevor stepped in with the knife leading, going for that low, threatening thrust meant to scare Marcus down to his knees. He never got close. Here's the thing nobody in that room understood until later. A knife is fast, but a knife is only as fast as the arm behind it, and Marcus wasn't watching the knife. He'd been watching Trevor's shoulder and his front foot the whole time, the way you watch a storm, not the rain, the clouds behind it. So Marcus started moving a half second before the blade did. He didn't move back. He moved in, toward the knife. That's the part your body screams is wrong, and it's exactly what he drilled 10,000 times until it stopped being a decision and became a reflex. His left hand slapped down and across, catching the inside of Trevor's knife wrist and shoving it offline, out and away from both of them. His right hand came up under Trevor's elbow at the same instant, and then Marcus turned. That was the whole secret. He didn't muscle it. He just pivoted his hips, the way you'd swing a gate, and Trevor's own forward momentum and Marcus's turn came together and folded that outstretched arm straight up behind Trevor's back, wrist bent, elbow locked, the knife pointing at nothing. Trevor's mouth opened. A short, high sound came out. His whole body went up on his toes because that's the only place the joint would let him go. It was over about there, but Marcus finished it clean. He stepped through, kept the arm locked high, and rode Trevor face first down onto the mat, controlled, almost soft, the way you set down something you don't want to break. Trevor hit the mat chest and cheek, arms still pinned up his back, and Marcus dropped one knee across his shoulder blades. Just enough weight, not a pound more. "Open your hand," Marcus said. Trevor didn't. So Marcus rolled the wrist another quarter-inch, and the pain did the arguing for him. Trevor's fingers sprang open and the knife dropped onto the mat with a little plastic clack. Marcus flicked it away with the side of his hand, out of reach, spinning across the floor to the far wall. And then he just held him there. That's the thing you have to understand. There was no punch. Nobody in that whole room saw Marcus Rourke throw a single strike. No haymaker, no elbow, no big finish. He caught a wrist, turned his hips, and put a grown man on the ground, and the loudest thing in the whole exchange was Trevor's own gym bag falling over. The room was so quiet you could hear the water cooler gurgle. "Everybody okay?" Marcus said, not to Trevor, to the room. His voice hadn't changed at all, not out of breath, not shaking. "Kids, you're all right, look at me, it's done, it's over." Diesel had gotten up off his cushion and walked stiff-legged over to stand near Marcus's side, not growling now, just there, old and steady, the way he used to stand next to this same man in far worse rooms than this one. Marcus reached down with his free hand and touched the dog's head once. "Good boy, sit." Diesel sat. Underneath him, Trevor had started to talk. Fast, panicked, everything reversed now. Okay, I'm sorry, let me up. You're hurting me, please, I'm sorry." "I know," Marcus said, "and here's what got everybody." He wasn't gloating, he didn't lean on it. His face, when you looked at it, wasn't triumph, it was almost sad. "I know you are, hold still, I'm not going to hurt you. I've got no reason to hurt you. You understand, none, it's already done." He looked over at Ray. "Ray, call it in. Tell them it's not urgent anymore. Tell them we're all fine, one man on the ground, weapon secured, no injuries, slow and calm." Ray fumbled out his phone with shaking hands and made the call. And Marcus stayed exactly like that, kneeling on the mat, holding a man who tried to stab him in a strip mall gym with 11 kids watching and an old dog sitting beside him, and he didn't say one cruel word. Not one. He'd had every right in the world to. He just didn't have it in him. The phone was still recording, by the way. Face down on the mat where Trevor dropped it, but recording. Caught all of it. Remember that. It matters later. The deputies came in 7 minutes. 2 of them, then a third. They came in careful, hands near their belts, because a call about a knife in a room full of children gets everybody's attention. What they found stopped them at the door. They found a 51-year-old man kneeling calmly on the mat, a young man face down and secured beneath him, a folding knife sitting harmless against the far wall, and 11 kids lined up against the other wall, scared, sure, but safe. Every one of them safe. The lead deputy, a woman named Alvarez, took one look and read the whole thing in a second, the way people who do that work learn to. "Sir, you can let him up. We've got him." Marcus eased his weight off slow, kept control of the arm until the deputies had hands on Trevor, then handed him off clean, the way you'd pass off a rope. "Knife's over there by the wall," he said. "I kicked it clear. His camera's on the mat, still running. It'll show you he came in with it. He drew first." They cuffed Trevor and sat him against the wall. And now that the fight was long gone and the weight of it was landing, Trevor Kane was crying. Not the tough guy act, not for the camera, just a scared young man who'd walked into a room to make a stupid video and instead thrown his whole life sideways with one bad decision. He kept saying he was sorry, to the deputies, to the parents, to the kids. Nobody answered him. There wasn't much to say. Deputy Alvarez took Marcus aside by the water cooler and got his statement. Name, what happened, the sequence of it. Marcus told it flat and plain, no drama, giving Trevor's actions but not once reaching for a bigger word than he needed. When he finished, Alvarez looked at him a second longer than the paperwork required. 22 years, that photo says. She nodded at the wall. Teams. Marcus just gave a small shrug. Long time ago. She almost smiled. Right. She'd met men like him before. She knew the shrug for what it was. For what it's worth, sir, the way you handled that with all these kids in here, most guys with your background would have hurt him a lot worse and been well inside their rights. You didn't have to be gentle. Marcus looked over at Trevor, cuffed and small against the wall. He's somebody's kid, he said. Wasn't always going to be like this. Somewhere back there he took a wrong turn and nobody grabbed his collar. He shook his head. I've hurt enough people in my life who actually needed hurting. This boy just needed stopping. They walked Trevor out to the car. Before they got him through the door, Marcus said, "Hold up a second." He crossed the room and crouched down to Trevor's eye level, the same way he crouched to the crying kids, and the deputies let him. "Hey," Marcus said, "look at me. You're going to have a rough few months. You earned that, but listen, you're young and you're not done. When you come out the other side of this, you find something to be that isn't this. You hear me? You had all this energy pointed the wrong way, pointed somewhere good. Nobody's story has to end on its worst day." He put a hand on Trevor's shoulder just for a second. "Go on now." And Trevor, who'd walked in an hour ago calling this man a fraud, couldn't even hold his eyes. He nodded, wet-faced, and let them lead him out. The parents came off the wall then, all at once, checking their kids, hugging them, some of them crying too, that shaky laughing kind of crying you do when the scary thing turns out okay after all. Ray shook Marcus's hand and held onto it too long and couldn't get words out. A couple of the moms just said thank you over and over, and Marcus said, "You're all right. Everybody's all right." That's the whole thing, and started stacking the folding chairs because his hands needed something to do. The kids, though, the kids were watching him different now. You know how children look at somebody when they've just seen who a person really is. A 7-year-old named Mia, the shy one, the one who scratched Diesel's ears when she got nervous, tugged on Marcus's sleeve. "Mr. Rourke," she said, "how'd you do that? You didn't even hit him." Marcus set down the chair. He crouched to her level. And here's the thing, this is what he'd been trying to teach them all along, and now they'd seen it with their own eyes, so it was worth saying plain. "Because hitting him wasn't the goal," he said. "Everybody thinks fighting is about hurting the other guy. It's not. The goal was to keep all of you safe and stop him from doing something he couldn't take back. I did the smallest thing that would do that, nothing more." He looked around at all of them. Strongest thing a person can do isn't throwing the biggest punch. It's holding all that power in your hand and choosing not to spend it. Anybody can hit. Stopping, that's the hard part. That's the part worth learning. Now here's how it ended, and it's the part I like best. That video Trevor was so proud of. It never made him a dime. His phone got logged into evidence, and the footage showed exactly what happened, him shoving an instructor, throwing a full punch at a man shielding children, then pulling a knife. He was charged. His channel came down. The whole business he'd built on humiliating other people collapsed under the weight of the one time it went wrong. But somebody in that room had filmed it too, on their own phone from the chairs. A short clip. Not the knife, just the moment at the end, Marcus kneeling there, refusing to gloat, telling a crying kid he wasn't going to hurt him. That's the piece that got out. That's the one that traveled. Millions of people watched a quiet man in a strip mall gym choose mercy when he didn't have to, and the comments weren't about the takedown at all. They were about the sitting down after, about the voice he used, about the hand on the shoulder at the door. Marcus never watched it, wasn't interested. When a reporter called, he said the same thing he always said. "Long time ago, I learned what real damage costs, so I try to spend as little of it as I can. That's all. There's no story here." And he hung up gentle and went back to teaching kids how to stand. Diesel lived another year after that. Died on his cushion in the corner one afternoon, old and easy, with 3 kids scratching his ears. Marcus buried him out back behind the gym and got a young shepherd a few months later, and started the whole patient business of teaching that one to sleep in the corner too. The class is still there. Same strip mall, same peeling gold letters. Marcus is a little grayer. He still crouches down to the small ones and tells them they're not behind, they're right on time. And on the first day, before any of the standing or the falling or the breathing, he tells every new group the same thing because it's the only lesson that really matters. The strongest hand in the room, he says, is the one that could close into a fist. And doesn't. Remember that man screaming in his face at the very start of all this, daring him to throw a punch? Marcus never did throw it. Not one. And that turned out to be the most powerful thing anybody in that room had ever seen.